I just finished watching the 6 episodes of Ironheart last night, and brother, I have a lot to say. We're gonna talk about the negatives and positives and the highs and lows of this show. This was so crazy. I'll make sure to have a spoiler warning for you guys because we will be talking about a lot of spoilers. There was just too much important stuff that happened. And of course, we'll give a rating to start out the video. So if you're new here, please subscribe. If you're watching, please like the video. But without further ado, let's get into this review. First and foremost, I can't believe that when this show came out, before the public could even watch it, all that it was open to was a couple of reviewers and stuff like that, and influencers and content creators. This show got completely review bombed. And a lot of people are like, well, can they just have opinions? Are they just not allowed to like the show? Like, what's the deal with that? Yes, of course you're allowed to not like the show, but how are you going to give a rating to something that's not even out to the public yet? And then when it did get released to the public, there's 3 episodes and each one of them are an hour long. 30 minutes in, it was just getting instantly review bombed. But then once the first 3 episodes came out and the last 3 episodes came out last night, look how high the Rotten Tomatoes score is right now and what it's rated on IMDb. Do not let the review bombs fool you, brother. This is an amazing show. Just a clear reminder that racism is real, and a lot of people don't know Riri Williams as a character. Everybody loves Iron Man, so they're instantly just thinking that, oh, she's taking Iron Man's place and they're trying to color swap Iron Man, whatever. She's a really interesting character. I hope you get into the background of her character and learn more about her before you just completely judge, and give the show a chance. The first episode was really slow. I understand that, but it picks up very quickly, so that's what we're gonna get into now. I personally give it a 7 to 7.5 out of 10. There's a lot of positives, there is a lot of negatives, but overall this show is really good. The finale completely stuck the landing, and the highs in this show were just insane. So getting off into the positives and negatives, the main negative I had was kind of pacing in the beginning of the show, but that's normally what happens with the introductions because it's not really traditional, right? Like, she got introduced in Wakanda Forever. That's kind of who we known her as. She was a student there. She was getting paid doing people's homework, doing their projects, etc. And that's when the Wakandans needed her help. And that was when we got our first appearance of Ironheart. So this is technically the introduction for her own personal show. And we got to get into the more of the background of her character and what she goes through on a daily with who her family is, her friends are, and what her life is about to be now. But it did feel super slow trying to introduce everybody that's involved in her life, which is completely understandable, but I thought that was kind of a negative. When I see first shows, I really wanted to grasp my attention and to make me keep watching. But I think that's why Marvel dropped 3 episodes at once, because if it is slow, they're like, look, give the next 2 episodes a chance. And I think that really worked. The next positive is Dominique Thorne. I mean, Marvel never really misses with castings, but she's an amazing Riri Williams. I mean, amazing. I never knew who she was as an actor. Like I said, when it comes to Marvel in these situations, you kind of just have to trust them and see how they can perform in this role. And brother, she pulled off Ironheart extremely well. The emotions and stuff were good. You could tell she really embraces Ironheart as a character, and she pretty much stole the show. And that's another positive that leads into this, is the cast. The casting was really good. Anthony Ramos as the Hood, and I never really liked him as an actor really, but he was amazing in this series. Reagan, who plays Zelma, I think she was like the 3rd best actress in the show. I loved her role so much. She's a part of the Doctor Strange Academy, and she debuted in the show, and she was talking to Riri about magic and stuff. That's not a huge spoiler, but the casting for this is really good, and which leads into another positive. Brother, it's Ryan Coogler. Ryan Coogler was a part of this production team, so visually it looked amazing. The show had sauce. I'm gonna put these title card things on the screen. For every single episode, they found a really creative way to show like the title cards, which I thought was really cool. Another negative that I had was kind of between Riri and her best friend Natalie. I did feel like it was overused just a little bit. Like, it felt like it dragged on long enough. And if you don't understand the characters, Natalie becomes like her AI assistant, kind of how like Jarvis is to Iron Man. But Natalie is somebody that died in Riri's life. Natalie is Riri's best friend, of course, and she ended up using the brain function things to bring that AI back to life, and she felt very real, of course. And of course that's fine and it keeps it accurate, but it just felt like extremely dragged on. She was interfering with the missions and stuff, but then she was just happy to kind of be alive again and spend some time with Riri. She ends up coming through and saving her in a lot of moments, and then she comes through and ends up scaring half of her family. And then the ending happens, which we'll talk about in spoilers. I felt like it was just a little bit overused. It caused a lot of extra dialogue, so I felt like it was just dragging out a little bit. That could just be me nitpicking, but I think that's a little bit of a negative. The last negative I have before we get into spoilers, this could be a slight spoiler. I personally don't like when there's not a strong motive for the hero of the movie to be bothering the villain. Obviously, the Hood is not a good guy, and Riri ends up becoming a criminal in this show, and they kind of work together and stuff. The phrase "curiosity killed the cat" is kind of how I felt during the show. The only reason they had this interaction and problems to begin with was because Riri was nosy and she wanted to know the Hood's powers, how it worked, and what he truly was. And I guess I understand if you want to be nosy when you're working with somebody and you kind of want to know what's going on in their life, kind of like how you want to know more about your boss and stuff. If the Hood had done something to her family, or maybe he was the one that unalived Natalie or something, and she found out later on, or like, you know, something like that. He had some ties into her family, something to make it more interesting. But now let's get into spoilers, because I really want to dive into that more. So this is your spoiler warning. If you have not watched Ironheart yet and you want to go leave and watch it, completely understand, but there's a lot of stuff that happens, so let's talk about it. Picking up where we left off, the only reason that Riri wanted to get to know what the Hood's powers was, and she noticed that some things was wrong, she obviously knew that he had some powers because he ended up saving her from like some type of cop or something like that, and he shot one of the magic bullets and seen it curved and stuff like that, and it hit him. She's seen him teleport, turn invisible. So she was like, okay, I'm curious. I think it's the cape that he is wearing. So she decides on her mission to basically sabotage it and to try to take a piece of like his cape, and it ends up working. She gets caught by the older brother, who's the mastermind of all this, and he ends up trying to unalive her. She ends up unaliving him. And even though if it wasn't on purpose, but all of this just because you're curious about how his powers work, like that's just so confusing to me. And because of this, she gets hunted down for the rest of the show. I stated before, if they somehow tied the Hood into unaliving her best friend on accident, or having beef with the father, you know, something like that, that made more sense, and like maybe him and his older brother robbed them or something, and she found out later on, and she found out the person I'm working for unalived my friends, and I see that he has magic, so let me see what I could do to kind of counter that and fight him. That would have made a lot more sense to me. That would have got me a lot more interested, but I was kind of annoyed that she's being so curious, and this led to her and all of her problems. But now the biggest positive in this show was by far the finale. There's only 6 episodes, so there's not too much to really talk about. But in that finale, we got the biggest reveal ever, and that is Mephisto. I don't even know how to say his name, but he's an amazing Mephisto. The accents that he was changing was crazy. He felt so menacing. And that's the thing, because Mephisto is basically like the devil of Marvel, the Satan of Marvel. And he was giving everybody anything that they asked for, anything that they wanted. He was convincing them just to give me your soul and I'll do this for you. Everything will be just fine. I'll give you everything that you ask for. It showed a small glimpse of him, just a small glimpse. We didn't get to see the full thing, but the design in that reflection, it literally gave me chills. I'm like, wow, he is actually here right now. His background story with how he met the Hood and stuff was just so good. The dialogue was good, the writing was good, the acting was really good, the scenery was really good. Just a pure explanation. And then later on, they kind of fast forward and they meet again, and the Hood was basically asking for him to come out, and they have a little bit of an argument, and he's like, look, I will replace you. Like, do not have an attitude with me. I gave you everything. Like, and ended up kind of like putting him in his place, and I just thought that was just such a good scene. And then leading to that, at the ending, Mephisto talks to Riri, and she basically was thinking that he's Dormammu, and he ends up explaining himself, saying like, no, I'm Mephisto. Dormammu can't even touch me. He's nowhere near me. He's like, look, I can give you everything you want. And she was like, no, because the one thing I want is just it's not possible to do. And he was like, well, watch this. He was like, just agree with me. Shake my hand. They shake hands, and it does like this cool thing. Wine cooler is so good. It does this cool thing where it cuts back and forth between the present and their conversation, or the future and their conversation. And Riri, she has her puffy natural hair out, and next thing you know, we see Natalie again, and then we're assuming that she's just like the hologram, she's just the AI, and that she ended up getting it to work. But Natalie ends up hitting Riri in the face, like touching her playfully, and Riri was like, wait, how'd you do that? And then she realizes that, oh wow, like she's alive. And then it cuts back to Mephisto and Riri shaking hands and making that deal. And basically it's showing that he brought her back to life, or made the AI real, you know, something around that realm. And Riri and Natalie hug, and you can see the same affection that the Hood had on his neck. She had it on her arm, and I had chills. I was like, wow, what a way to stick a landing. That ending and that finale was insane, and it makes Riri as a character a lot more interesting, and it makes me want to know more about her moving forward. How she's gonna fit into Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, and if they're going to touch more about Mephisto and stuff. I know people didn't like this at first, but this definitely deserves a season 2. I think there's so much more you can explore with her character. I just thought there was a lot to unpack in that final episode. It was just so good. And then the biggest part that I skipped basically was the huge fight scene between Ironheart and the Hood. They kind of showed like his demonic side coming out while they were fighting. They showed how powerful and strong he is, showing like that monster form. He was scratching Ironheart's suit over and over again. While she was flying around the room, he was grabbing onto her, climbing onto her suit. It was crazy. Like, I was completely shocked by what I was watching. Like I give this a 7 to 7.5 out of 10. I think in a 6-episode series, you have to be very, very careful with dragging things out. You need to make sure people's attention is on because there's only 6 of these episodes. But I think they made up for that in terms of storytelling, the cast, her family, Red Hood, debuting Mephisto. Ironheart was using magic in her suit. She got like an insane upgrade. It's just phenomenal. And again, I encourage you just to get your own opinion, to watch it for yourself. Don't let the review bombs and stuff fool you. Like I said about racism and stuff like that before. You're allowed to not like a show, I understand, but the way this show got treated when it wasn't even out yet, it's sad. It really is. That is my review. For more content like this, I'm going to be doing this a lot more as more stuff comes out. I'm going to also be reviewing F1 and Jurassic World. They will be in the same video together next week on Monday. There's also a video every Thursday. So like I said, if you're new here, please subscribe. If you watch the whole thing, please like the video. It does a lot for me. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I'm active on both, but thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you on the next video.